Welcome to the Writer's Journey podcast. I'm Michael Laron, a science fiction and fantasy author on a journey to go from nobody to bestseller, and I'm documenting every step of the way. Tune in every week as I pull back the curtain on my writing life and how I'm building a writing career while working a full-time job, raising a family, and attending law school classes in the evenings. You can find show notes for this week's episode, a free starter library of my fiction, and much more at michaellaron.com. Hello and welcome to episode 102. 102 is a good number, and I named the title of this episode Lost in New York. And the reason for that is because I just got back from New York City. So my family and I went to New York City for a wedding. We had a friend there who was getting married. So we said, why not just make the most of it and stay for like 7 days? So we stayed in New York City for 7 days. I've actually never been to New York City. Neither had my wife or my daughter, so it was a very fun experience, and I'm going to talk all about that in this episode. But first, I wanted to do some quick updates. I want to give a huge shout out to my new patron, S. Chipasula Perry, a longtime listener of the show. Thank you very much for your support on Patreon. And for those of you who don't know, I do have a Patreon page. You can find out about it at patreon.com/Michael Laron. There's a bunch of benefits and things like that and goals. I'll probably be revamping those here pretty soon, but some of the benefits that the patrons get is monthly audio. So I do record it's almost like a podcast episode, but it's on my phone. It's usually while I'm driving somewhere. Bonus audio every month with writing tips and you know insights that I probably wouldn't share on the Writer's Journey or Writing Tip of the Day. So that's one of the benefits that my patrons get for support. So you can check that out at patreon.com/Michael Laron. Did want to give a update. Book 2 in the Good Necromancer series is still going along. I've got about 20,000 words left. Obviously being on vacation kind of knocked me out a little bit. This was one of the few vacations where I actually didn't do any writing. In fact, I didn't do much of anything to move anything forward, to use vague words here. So I didn't do any homework. I didn't do any writing. I didn't do any advertising. I really did go on vacation, which is, in some ways, this is probably the first real vacation I've had in like 7 years. So, you know, someone could be forgiven for 7 days, right, when you've worked the last 7 years. I'm going to talk about that as well in terms of how far behind I am on so many things and what I'm doing to catch up. But yeah, not too many updates this week. My basement is still unrepaired. I met with the contractor yesterday. It seems like you have 1,000 meetings with them before they start the work, but met with him. He is going to start Monday or Tuesday. He's going to do the drywall. It's going to take him about a week, and then the week after that, he should lay the carpet. So my wife and I are going to go to the Home Depot this weekend to pick out carpet samples and give those to the contractor so he can buy them. And yeah, the finish line is near. I'm really, really looking forward to getting back into my studio. I feel like not having a dedicated place to write really has derailed me these past few weeks. Like I'm one where I can write anywhere and I can write anytime. It's not a big deal, but just not having a space to write, I think, has unmoored me a little bit, and I'm really looking forward to getting back into a regular routine where I can have my microphone in the same spot every day, so I don't have to worry about moving it around and transporting it, and it's just been kind of a pain, but it is what it is, right? What I wanted to spend a fair amount of time talking about today is my trip to New York City. And I'm sure many of you listening have been to New York, and I'm sure some of you may live in New York. So some of this is going to be kind of like a eye-rolly kind of thing. But I don't intend for it to be that way. But you know, this was my first time in New York, and I think you have an image in your head of what you think New York City is, and then when you go there, it's completely different. You know, and it was definitely an experience for me because I've always wanted to go there just because of the scale. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I want to move to New York and I want to try to make it there. No, I'm just more interested in what it's like to actually live there. And so we stayed for 7 days. We actually did the most touristy stuff possible, we stayed in Times Square. My friend actually lives not that far from Times Square, so that was one of the main reasons we did it. We went to the Brooklyn Bridge. We went to the 9/11 Memorial, which was really, really cool, by the way. And we hit all the touristy stops. I got New York pizza and all that good stuff. But the main reason I was really interested in going to New York was from a writing perspective, because New York is like a people watcher's paradise. And I knew it would be. When you put that many people in that small of a space, you're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff and interesting people. And so I had a few things I wanted to kind of share with you guys in terms of some of the things that I saw and some of the things that kind of inspired me while I was there. So the first thing that was pretty interesting was that we went to New York City Hall. So my friends got married at City Hall, and they got married on Valentine's Day. And what I didn't expect, let me take that back. What I expected was just to kind of go into City Hall and there might be a line and you watch them as they get married. But what I didn't expect was that the line for City Hall was out the door and around the corner. Like I've never seen so many people at a City Hall, like to get married. Like in Iowa, when you have to go, in Iowa, you have to basically get your marriage certificate first. And then, when you get married, you sign it, and then the pastor signs it, or the witnesses sign it, or whatever. I don't remember who signs it, but you get the certificate first, and then you get married. In New York, it's the opposite. Like, you get married, and then you go get the certificate. At least that's how I understood it anyway. So what was interesting about it was that there were so many people. Like, it was just crazy. Like, and they were all like in wedding dresses and in tuxedos. And some people were just getting married, like in their like regular clothes, which is totally cool. So that was kind of fun. It was the coldest day of the season so far in New York. So I think it was like, I don't know, it had to be like 15 degrees outside, but the wind was just really, really bad. So we were standing outside for about an hour, and that was not very much fun. But we got to see a lot of interesting stuff. There was a guy selling flowers outside the door. He had this giant table. He was selling roses and bouquets and stuff for people that, wanted to get pictures. And then there were journalists walking all over, giving interviews to people who were getting married on Valentine's Day. They interviewed my friends and asked them questions about how they met and, why they were getting married today and what their story was. And there was photographers for hire wandering around, saying if you want a photographer, and they were giving their rates. It was just kind of cool. And then you had to go through security to get into the City Hall. And the City Hall is like this giant, I don't know what the architectural style is, but like it's exactly what you would think of when you think of a government building, like very, very tall, very bleak in some ways. I think Federalist architecture would be the way to describe the building. So when you walk in, it's just kind of this massive structure. And then when you walk into the city clerk's office, it's like this sea of desks. It was really interesting. Like, I've never seen so many desks. Because like in Iowa, when you walk into the city clerk's office, it's like a glorified closet, So, yep, we watched them get married at City Hall. That was a lot of fun. There were a lot of really interesting people there, a lot of really pretty dresses, lots of different languages being spoken. And just people from all walks of life. And I didn't know that City Hall is a place to get married on February 14th. I didn't realize that was a thing. So for the reception, we went to a traditional Chinese dinner. So my friend is Chinese. And so we went to a restaurant in Manhattan where it was a circular table. And they had a circular glass pedestal on the table. And then you would just rotate the pedestal whenever the waiters brought food. And it must have been like a 7-course meal. I mean, it was crazy. Like, they just kept bringing food, and it was real Chinese, and it was really, really cool. In the restaurant, which is kind of like tucked away, you would never know that it was like a like a traditional Chinese restaurant, and it was really, really good. If anybody happens to live in New York, I'll drop the name of the restaurants that I went to, in case you haven't been there, or in case you're going to New York and you want a recommendation. I guess I'll do that. But yeah, that was a really cool experience as well. So that was just a really, really fun day. And even though it was really, really cold, we had a really good time. I went to Harlem. You can't be black and go to New York for the first time and not go to Harlem. So we went to Harlem one of the days, and that was probably the highlight of the experience there. Like Harlem was just really, really cool. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I've been to a lot of black communities. Like, I grew up in a black community. Harlem was the most vibrant black community I've ever been in. Like, just straight up, like, just walking the streets, there was just a really cool energy there, really cool vibe. The people were super friendly. I actually got a haircut at a Harlem barbershop, which that was a fun experience. Black barbershops are always fun, but a Harlem barbershop was really fun. The barber took really good care of me. So that was fun. We went to Alexander Hamilton's house, which I didn't realize was in the middle of Harlem. So that was kind of cool for anybody that likes the musical Hamilton. It was kind of cool to actually see his house. Like, we actually got to go into his house and see what it looked like. And there were a lot of really cool exhibits, and they had some original items that were, existed from the family. Yeah. And it's just like right in the middle of the city. Like, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, that was a really, really fun experience in Harlem. We saw some interesting people on the subway. Interesting in terms of some people were really cool and some people were really, really sketchy. Like, so there was a tourist, and I know she was a tourist because she just looked like a tourist. She was kind of wandering around like a lost puppy, and we were sitting on the subway platform, and I noticed that she gave a subway card or a metro card to a homeless guy that was standing on the platform waiting for the next train. And the homeless guy was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate this. You don't know how much this means to me. I just can't thank you enough." And the lady's like, "Oh no, it's my pleasure. This is yours. Be sure to use it." And and then the homeless guy was like, "Well, if I could ask you, ma'am, how much money is on this card?" And I'm using the exact words that this guy used too. And she's like, "Oh, well, there's no money on it." And then the homeless guy went ballistic on her. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "You gave me a subway card and there's no money on it." He's like, "This is unbelievable." And then he proceeded to basically rip into her and say, if you want to help homeless people, then don't give them an empty subway card. Or a subway card with no money on it, I should say. And then he gets basically ripped into her. He's like, he's like, "You're not helping me at all by doing this." And then he asked her, where was she going? He's like, "'Cause you're clearly not from here." And she's like, "Well, I'm trying to get to," I don't know where she was trying to get to. She had a suitcase. I think she was trying to get out of town. And he's like, "Well, here's what you do." He's like, "Go upstairs, make a left, make another left, make another right." And he told her legit directions on where to go. Like, it's not like he was giving her legit directions. And then he's like, "I want you to get out of my sight and I never want to see you again." And that's precisely what she proceeded to do. So yeah, very interesting people on the subway. There was another guy that got on one of the subways, and as the car started moving, he just broke out into song, and he started singing Stand by Me. And he was singing to all the kids. Like, he just kind of walked up and down the car singing to all the people, but he was pointing at the kids while he was singing. And then after he finished the song, he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm currently homeless. I don't beg on the street, but singing is how I make my money. Anything you could spare would be great." And he moved up and down the car again with a little copper cup. And then when the train stopped, he was gone. Just super interesting. I don't know. It was kind of fun. Those were the fun people on the subway. There were some really scary people on the subway too, especially after dark. So we tried not to take the subway too much after dark. But yeah, overall, New York it was everything I thought it would be. I don't think I could live there. It was a people watcher's paradise. It was a listener's paradise. Like, I heard snippets of conversations that were like, what the hell are these people talking about? So yeah, it was everything I thought it would be, and more. I definitely couldn't live there. Like I said, it way too expensive. Definitely the most expensive family vacation we have ever had. Yeah, I would go back, but I would try to do things a little bit more cheaply. it's amazing how expensive it is. I honestly don't know how people do it. It's unbelievably expensive. Like I said, this was the first real vacation that we took, and I definitely unplugged myself and really just tried to enjoy the city and just tried to have a lot of fun. And so I'm pretty behind on everything. Like, I'm behind on my writing deadlines. I'm behind at work. I'm behind for this presentation that I have to do in like 2 weeks that I haven't started on for this insurance class. I'm behind in my reading. Like, I didn't get my reading done for this week's class. Like, I'm behind in almost every area of my life right now. And so what I'm trying to do to catch up is just trying to figure out what the low-hanging fruits are and then focus on those. So like right now, writing it, I'm so close to finishing book 2 that I'm really trying to keep that in perspective so that it doesn't fall off the radar. At the same time, I've got this presentation coming up and I really have to get it done. And I've got schoolwork that I've got to get done. And so I'm trying to balance everything and just trying to go after the things that I know I can knock out quickly, which unfortunately is nothing right now. So it's probably going to take me a few weeks to catch up. I'm just going to have to try to do things a little bit at a time every day. And I'm actually recording this episode slightly late. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning as I record this episode because I got back from New York Tuesday night. So I didn't get a chance to record Wednesday because I was super tired. And so, yeah, it's just, you got to do what you got to do, right? And sometimes you're going to fall behind, and I certainly fell behind, and it is what it is. So I apologize if I'm a little bit low energy this week or if I'm a little bit more rambly than normal. I really just did want to make sure that I got an episode out in front of you guys. And next week will be a lot of fun because I'm going to talk about an update on my Amazon ad situation. I haven't run the numbers yet, but things looked pretty good while I was away. So I can't wait to talk about that. But anyway, I will end the episode here, and I hope that all of you have a wonderful week. And again, I'll drop the restaurants that I visited in New York in the comments if anyone is interested. So with that, take care, and I'll holler at you next time. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, you'll enjoy my backlist episodes at michaelaran.com/podcast. For your free starter library of my favorite novels, join my fan club by visiting michaelaran.com/fanclub. If you're a writer and want to connect with me further, check out my YouTube channel, Author Level Up, for helpful writing advice at authorlevelup.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week.